We are honored to be joined by Dr. Oz. This is the race in the country that almost everybody, both sides of the aisle, Democrat and Republicans, have said, this is the race that will likely determine the balance of power in the U.S. Senate. I can't think of anything more important in a midterm election than that right away. And Dr. Oz is joining us live.
So, Dr. Oz, Jay Sekulow, it's great to have you. Appreciate you taking time for, I know it's a busy campaign. I wanted to first go right to one of the issues that's impacting Pennsylvanians, and we're on stations all over Pennsylvania, but around the country, and that is energy and energy independence. And this is something you've been very outspoken on. What's your sense of where we are and where we need to go?
The crisis in the Ukraine and the fact that in Europe gas is going to be $10 a gallon is a wake-up call to all Americans. And within Pennsylvania, where the vast majority, 60% of the population, knows a lot about energy because they get paid through energy. Either they work in facilities, manufacturing that are affordable because energy is inexpensive here, or they actually work in the energy business, building pipelines or drilling, or they lease their land to energy companies. So the entire economy turns on energy, yet we have not been allowed to harvest it. And so big cities like Philadelphia, which should be like New Orleans or Houston, affluent big cities with lots of energy, instead are Philadelphia is the largest poor city in America. So if you sit in a diner in central PA, the person serving you coffee can lecture you on energy policy. And they are upset that the approach to energy has been a negative one in the media, that they're vilified for being in the energy business. And they want a Senate candidate, a senator serving in Washington who can protect the energy industry and allow America to become energy independent again.
Dr. Oz, one of those issues that I think it ties directly to energy, and you already touched on it. Not only is it important to the voters because of the prices that they see, whether it's the prices of the pump, the prices to heat their home, but also that Pennsylvania is so energy rich that if you unleash the power of Pennsylvania and the Commonwealth, people there, the economy would be in a very different situation. So it impacts that larger economy while people are dealing with this large, huge inflation and trying to predict whether or not they can pay their bills, heat their home. So I think Pennsylvania's a perfect example of a place where energy policy really directly impacts, as you said, so many people's economic bottom line.
We're literally undermining our own country. And I start my discussions on energy saying, if you really love the environment, forget about virtue signaling. If you truly love the environment, you should be rooting for natural gas, a cleanest source of fuel we have right now that's widely available. We build green energy. In the meantime, we have much of that energy infrastructure already being built up in Pennsylvania, but we live and die on energy like natural gas being affordable. And it's affected at every level. If you want philanthropies, food banks, you need to have energy because that's how they pay the bills. If you want tens of thousands of extra jobs in Philadelphia to employ people who have no future, give them an opportunity in the energy business, training young people in the trades. If you want to have America take its position as a powerful energy-producing dominant country so we don't have to go hat in hand to Iran or Venezuela, then get American energy up on its feet again. All of this, by the way, is bothersome to people in Pennsylvania because it's a hypocrisy they're witnessing. While virtue signaling is taking place about protecting the environment, we're actually hurting the world environment by not giving them access to our clean natural gas.
It's incredible to me, Dr. Oz, that we have gone in 19 months from energy independence to energy dependence to the point where we're angry at Saudi Arabia because they did not release more oil. And that we've reached this point which goes to the next issue, because as U.S. Senator, you're going to have to deal with this, and this is our standing in the world. And our standing in the world has diminished significantly in 19 months.
Because we're sending the signal you just mentioned. If you're trying to get Iran on board and let them have nuclear weapons so they'll give us some of the dirty crude, you're undermining your ally in Israel. So what does the world look at? They say, my goodness, the Israelis are as loyal as they come, and yet the Americans are selling them short in order to get the Iranians to give us a little bit of something they have that we actually don't seem to have right now. So we'll work with the bad guys, hurt the good guys. That's not the moral high ground that America historically has taken. And if you mature that along, you realize that it actually strengthens Putin's position, that he knows we can't make up the gap in his shipments of energy to Europe, so he's holding them hostage. And then you say, what are the Chinese thinking? Chinese thinking, my goodness, Putin's doing this deal in the Ukraine. America pulled out of Afghanistan without planning. They're begging energy-rich countries like Venezuela and Saudi Arabia and Iran to do us a favor. Well, we're not the leader anymore. You want to go to these countries, especially your adversaries, in a position of power.
And when you talk about a position of power, Dr. Oz, too, you're starting to surge in the polls. You saw that this, again, through the summer, through the debate, and then post-debate, and the numbers now in a lot of the polls, you get 2 or 3 points. I mean, so it's still turnout. People need to get out the vote for you. But when I wanted to talk about this, too, when it comes to how people view America. Because when they see the crime going on in our country, in our major cities, yes, but even in small towns across America, Pennsylvania's got every kind of city and town in the country. Very representative of almost the entire East Coast. I mean, because of the way it kind of divides up, and you've got the different regions of the state. And when our adversaries see just the violent crime plaguing our nation, that is something, too, that impacts, one, all of us at home, but then, two, our standing abroad.
Well, some of it's caused by the fact that we can't protect our border and the ability of fentanyl to rush across the border with cartels, which are terrorist organizations, profiting from human trafficking, abusing those people, by the way, creating a humanitarian crisis, but meanwhile making every state a border state. By fentanyl right now in Pennsylvania, we're number 3 in the nation in deaths. There's not a place I go where someone doesn't put their hand up and say, my family has been destroyed because my loved one, who wasn't a drug addict, usually these are, someone sprains their ankle. They get a street version of a pain pill. It turns out to have fentanyl in it, and they die. Parent finds them blue and dead in bed. It petrifies people. We're also living in fear of crime in our streets. Parents won't let their kids go out. I was at a street fair in Philly, and the mom, who has a bunch of small kids, said, I bought video games, and I plant my kids in front of them, and I won't let them leave the home. This is in West Philly, where I went to med school and business school, where I used to walk around without any concerns at all. You can't do that now. And we have the largest open-air drug market in the country in Philadelphia and Kensington, which is an example of what happens if you legalize all drugs, which is what's happened. And my opponent, and I haven't mentioned him much, but he literally takes the opposite position from me, an extreme position on all these issues. He wants to legalize all drugs, including heroin, and create heroin injection sites. Well, that led to a 50% increase in homicides when it was enacted in Oregon in 2020. He wants to let out as many murderers as he can from jail, arguing we shouldn't have life sentences for felony murder. I don't think that's what the focus should be on right now. And he wants to increase taxes, which he's done in every position he could. And I argue, my goodness, at least pay your own, because he hasn't paid his own 67 times. So these are issues that are separating me from him and has given us the lead you mentioned in the polls.
Let me ask you this, Dr. Oz, and that is the greatest issue facing our country right now. As you look at it, we look at the economy, we look at energy issues, crime. They're all significant, but there is this sense, it reminds me very much right now of the Jimmy Carter era, where there's this malaise in the country, and we're not acting like the strongest country in the world anymore, and we're not acting like the most powerful country in the world. So when you look at it, what do you see as the biggest threat to the country right now?
The biggest threat to the country is not taking care of inflation, because that will eventually lead to weakening of the dollar and could cause devaluation, right, of the dollar, which is a horrible thing where all of a sudden the dollar's not worth what it used to be worth yesterday. And we are too strong of a country to let this happen. We have to get our affairs in order. It's very fixable. And the best thing about this is that when you travel around Pennsylvania, you get optimistic because people here really believe we can fix the problems. And you know what? I never get asked to beat up the Democrats. No one ever says that. They said, please stop bickering and fix the problem. So while John Fetterman takes things to the extreme all the time, which doesn't help, I want to do what I believe Washington would benefit from. Bring balance, work together with Democrats, independents, and do what I've always done as a surgeon. Because I'm not a politician. I'm a heart surgeon. Right. You have big problems like a broken heart. You unify. You don't balkanize and divide the operating room. You come together and you fix the problem. That's my commitment to Pennsylvania.
Doctor, I was about to say that. What was your final message to the voters in Pennsylvania? I think you just gave the best one you could give. And I think you're absolutely right. You're spot on where voters are in Pennsylvania. You got to appeal to more than just partisan politics. And while I think that we caught on Mike, they're worried there.
Yeah, they're
worried. We know that Chuck Schumer's worried and that Joe Biden's worried, and that's a good thing in our opinion. Dr. Oz, we appreciate you taking time, a very busy time, this final week of the campaign to join us.
We appreciate it. By the way, we offered time to Lieutenant Governor and Democratic candidate Fetterman to come on to the broadcast. We still keep that invitation open. No response yet, but, who knows?